everybody to our first official Success Stories Roundtable. I am so excited as the founder of Yes and Exercise to be here with some of our foundational success stories because, you know, we do this thing at Yes and Exercise, and people on the periphery say, that's cool. And then they kind of go, but what is it? They like the sound of it, but they don't necessarily know the effect. And they might come play in the improv and they can kind of get that. We encourage people to come and play a little bit. But then there's this deeper thing called cinema therapy. And, ooh, again, that sounds cool. What is it? And what we're going to share with you today are four versions of success stories from the cinema therapy program. And just a quick overview that this program came out of my PhD study in the Interdisciplinary Health Sciences program at UNLV. It was backed by a couple of Parkinson's Foundation grants as it was developing. And it has gone through about, I think, 10 or 11 iterations at this point. We run the class all online, just like we're doing now. We meet once a week for 16 weeks, just like a college class, because I'm indoctrinated in academia. My fellow brave students here, they write one page per week, which adds up to at least the framework of a story. And it could be any kind of story they'd like to tell. It could be a short story, could be a novella, a novel, a screenplay, series of poems, blog, whatever. But it's something to put forward a story based on their life. Now, that doesn't mean it is their life. This is very important. And you're going to hear that in all of these today because they use a technique we call aesthetic distance. Aesthetic distance means that there's a gap between them, the writer, and their character they're writing about. There may be similarities, there's things they may know about that character, but very importantly, it's not them. That provides the freedom for them to explore this fictional world and tell the truth within it in a way that might be difficult or even impossible to see in their own world. And so to that end, that leads us to these success stories with the goal of getting people to understand Parkinson's differently, of approaching the impossible, the cure, and quality of life issues in ways that they wouldn't normally, because these stories, they must be engaging and they must be clear. If they're not that, they're not good stories. And I'm happy to call them success stories because all of them are clear and engaging. So to that end, thank you and congratulations to everyone here for having your success stories where they are at this point. Let me open up at this point to all of you to just say, how do you feel about having your success story up on the website? What does it mean to you to see it there? Go ahead, Susan.
it, it it makes me it makes it real. I mean, I know that what's up there is a snapshot of the whole story, but to see what may potentially be the cover of my little novella, to see it just brings it to life. It was so exciting. It was really fun to design that and work with the magic of ChatGPT and the computer and things.
It's
But
a
this is
big point you bring up, the idea of ChatGPT, and I'm glad you did because a lot of people might look at this and go, well, that looks great, but that's not me. And quick show of hands, how many people thought at some point, that's not me in this process, either before or during like the idea of completing, right? Yeah, I'm glad you all put your hands up
yeah.
because once again, that's a symbol of impossible, right? I'm not an author. I couldn't write a novella or a novel or a screenplay. And yet, all of you have made the framework, gotten to the point to where now it's real. So, people from the outside might be looking at going, good for you, but not for me. Let me follow up now and ask you, what do you say to people who are thinking to themselves, either that's impossible or that's not for me? They're looking at this and saying that I could never be a hero. I could never be a success story in this framework. What do you say to them? Yeah, Karen.
You never know till you try.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? What do you say to people who are looking at the outside, understanding the crushing weight of life, perhaps Parkinson's in our community too, and all the things it does to mess with not just your body, but your head? What do you say to those people? Susan?
I would start off with it almost like confession. Like, yeah, I I get what you mean. I didn't feel that way at the beginning either. And as I fell into the process, it just it just captured me. My little story was just, I have no idea where it came from. And seeing it in writing and knowing that I'd never written a word of fiction, and here I was, just it's become my favorite thing to do. It's when I procrastinate, it's because I'm in here.
I've
Right.
heard you call it your little story a couple times, and I want to make sure that you're not minimizing what you've done because it's not a little story. It's a big story. And when you say you don't know where it came from, I do
Oh,
because I've walked most of it with you. And I want to make clear to everybody that it didn't just come like this.
Yeah,
It's
that's
been
right.
a series, months, even probably years of ups and downs. And I guess the question is, Susan, to where you are now, is it worth it?
Oh gosh, yes. I love, as I said, I love writing this story, and the fact that I have an audience in mind surprised me. But the story presented itself as a young adult kind of fantasy story about a little purple dragon. And I do, I guess you're right, Robert. I keep saying little.
Yeah. So I want to, like I said, that's it. That's our reflection. Sharon, you were very much an outsider to this program. You're the
oh
newest
yeah.
of the group here. And one thing I brought up to Susan the other day I thought was really interesting because you did the Fielding Your Dreams program featuring the
Mhm.
Field of Dreams. You wrote a pretty definitive takedown of the movie that kind of ended with, I don't get it.
Mm. Right.
You were like,
I never got that movie and I watched it several times.
I'll take
I
this
never
class.
got
I
it
don't
until
know.
we went through every scene. It was just like, oh wow. That's it was like an epiphany every week. And then to bring that feeling into my own writing, it was like, wow. I wouldn't even thought that this was possible for me at all. And then just the stages that you're going through are kind of like the stages that when you first want, like Karen had asked me if I wanted to be in, then I like at first I was like, I don't know, I never write, So
Mhm.
but uh really the whole process is you're going through the journey yourself as you're writing a
Yes,
journey about somebody else.
Right.
So
yes.
that's what I felt. I was felt, well, I have a fear and I have to accept it somehow that I can go forward. And that's sort of like how the hero's journey is, You have that fear, you're reluctant and all that, and then somehow you can move forward.
I love
So,
that. And we got to see your image there a little bit, a piece of it. And, you know, your piece is very tricky in a good way, that it deals with altered reality, right?
really,
Perception,
yeah.
right?
Lots of layers of like, what is this about?
And here's the great thing about that. I think many people go through some form of that and
Mhm.
they think it's always just them. I think that's a protective thing or a fear-based thing.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
shining light on the fact of being afraid, number one, which is
right.
and being an outsider and being told institutionally and familial from a familial
Mhm.
sense, no, 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 you're wrong, you're crazy, you're all those things. And you've given this character incredible agency to become an explorer. And,
Right.
when you think about your journey in a relatively short time to get this piece out, I mean, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, I was really involved with it. I think, thinking back in high school, took creative writing and everything, but at that time I had so many things against me. I had a, emergency appendicitis that ruptured, and I come back to the class and I don't have any clue of what was going on. I'd go to class and it was like nothing was there in Sharon's head. So,
Darren, let me ask you because we're going to look at everybody's page like this. This is an important part. This image of you in the field. Why did you choose this? It's a lovely thing, and it's a very intimate thing for an author to say this picture is going to represent me. Why does this picture represent you for this story?
it's a just a big it's a big change of who I was before this, and now I feel I'm free to go in broad spaces. So this is like a beautiful scene that's in the area where my great grandparents had their farm. So this is across from the cemetery. So it's just beautiful.
It's
It was a dedication for another, father and daughter that had died. And I just thought, wow, this is freeing.
It's part of
So,
the story. So that this is what we talk about with aesthetic distance. It's not the actual place, but it's based on the place. Chrissy's not,
right.
but she's got some similar feelings. You can empathize with her. You can be compassionate toward her. So again, that aesthetic distance allows freedom, right? And
right.
you brought up the hero's journey too. And I want to ask Amy, you've been through the course, I believe, 3 times. Is that correct?
Yeah, 3 times.
The hero's journey, people hear it and may not know, as we welcome Matthew to the room. Hello, Matthew. They may not know what the hero's journey could have to do with Parkinson's. Can you speak toward that about the how the hero's journey and Parkinson's come together for you?
Okay. Well, okay. What it did is the map, the map of the journey, it kind of gave me a road a plan, because before taking the classes, I was experiencing extreme apathy at the time. But even if it wasn't apathy, it's that I was kind of just stuck, and I didn't know what to think about what was going to come forward, and I didn't know about all the feelings. So I think how this helped Parkinson's for me, and possibly help others, is that it's a roadmap. It got me out of it just says, like, here's something to do that's
Right.
productive, and that will help you, just shake it all up in there, whatever's going on in my brain, that this, because I didn't have all the information yet. And
Mm-hmm.
taking the hero's journey made me loosen a lot of that up.
I love that the applicability, number one, and number two, I didn't have all the information. And just to make clear to everybody, nobody has all the information. So this puts us, you're right, the hero's journey is a very active thing. It's a very practical thing. And to, apply these stages and things that we all know them already because we're media consumers at, such a birth to grave level at this stage of, humanity, that the patterns are already there, that it seems to me there's freedom in using those things that are there. It's like, oh, wait a minute, they don't have to just happen to me. I can influence the way they happen by recognizing when they happen and how perhaps I'd like them to happen. Again, nobody gets control, but at least you get to organize and make sense of. And Matthew, turning to you, my friend, does that make sense, the idea? Because I know you came to us as an already established longtime actor, number one, but a first-time playwright who has a tremendous success with What I Didn't Say. And the artistic use of story to frame your life. How has that helped you, and where has that led you on your path with What I Didn't Say?
Yeah, that's a good question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think, we're authors of our own story. No doubt about it. And if you start to put your own personal story on a timeline, you start to observe it as a story, some interesting things happen. You realize there's autonomy. I get to decide what my story is going to be like to some degree. And so the autonomy is beautiful. It's where you don't have autonomy, meaning I've got, Parkinson's is getting worse. I've got more and more symptoms that appear. I've had surgery, which reversed some of them, and so I'm on sort of a wild roller coaster of a story. But the things that I have control over, I want them to be good. I want them to be a story that people hear and can listen to and follow. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating to look at your own life as a story that you're writing.
Yeah, and here's the thing, once again, because you're the one that really pushed aesthetic distance into the group, and I'm forever grateful for that. You knew it as a term, and I'd heard of it, but I didn't realize how important it was. Your process, you wrote this character for the play named Paul, who we furthered with your screenplay. He continues to be Paul, but in an expanded sense. And he's not based on you. He's based on 12 interviews you did outside with people in the Parkinson's community, and made this, amalgamation of a person who came together. Now you portray him in the play, which gives you a certain relationship. However, you have to keep, I'm guessing, some kind of aesthetic distance, because I've heard you many times after the play go, "Hey, everybody, I'm not Paul." And you bring forward this really important part of Parkinson's, which is what isn't being said, the psychosocial emotional part, this massive underneath the surface iceberg that we're not talking about. Tell me what you think when you see your journey from the play to the screenplay, which I've heard you say was impossible, and here it is. And now you see it in this form, because I haven't even talked to you since, I came up with this image. I hope you like it. I don't know if you like it, this poster image. How do you feel about what I didn't say? And by the way, we can change it if you don't like it.
Well, yeah, it's hair, so I'm all excited about it. You're gonna have to ask that question again.
So how do you feel? That's okay. How do you feel about seeing it? Because I know I stepped on probably some of your response by saying, that it felt impossible, and all of a sudden, a screenplay, what the heck? And now you've got this finished screenplay that here it is out. And by the way, it's making the way. It's won a couple of awards in festivals, both as a screenplay and as a short we've made. So how does that feel, to see yourself? And again, you know what the goal is. It's a big goal. We're trying to raise, several $1 million to make a big time production of this film that we would shoot in Columbus, Ohio, your hometown.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest here. I have to work very hard not to feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is a word that keeps coming up in this class.
Yeah.
That, this feeling that I'm not that good. Maybe I got lucky. Maybe this is a short-term thing when it's really a long-term thing. Yeah, there's a lot, and I'm glad that I based it on interviews and not just my own life. For one, it's highly emotional, and for it to be solely my story, I think would take a toll. The show takes a toll already, but if it were just me and my story and the things that I focus on, I think that would be exacerbated. It would I without that distance from the character that I'm playing, it would be hard, very hard.
There's a protective layer that you get from being able to say truthfully, that isn't me. That when people put their full self forward, you're welcoming in a whole bunch of stuff that you may not want. It'd be lovely if people were just nice about things, but we know that's not the case. So the distance to say, when you get a criticism about something that isn't exactly you, to go, okay, that's fine. You didn't like the thing between. It isn't an attack on me. It's an attack on the thing. And we know criticism is part of the world. So I don't want to back away from that, because putting oneself out there runs that risk, and that's realistic. At the same time, there's also, you can receive not just praise, but insight from people who see it. I'll say this for our success story, the Boys of Summer documentary series. My father is continually 24 years into our process, blown away by the things that people have to say about Boys of Summer. He, now 3 films, working on the 4th. We just did a screening yesterday at his assisted living facility for the 3rd film. And, some people who just didn't know him that way, that maybe things happened before they saw him. See him make this miraculous catch, in Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark. And go, oh my gosh, Dan, that was amazing. And he's like, yes. And he gets to catch that and go, that's still me. I may not be able to do that, but that is still me. That's part of my story. And it means something to other people to see, look at him. I know Dan Cochran, and that means something. So, Susan, I saw your hand a moment ago, please.
It was with respect to Paul's commentary and then your follow-up, Robert, about
Matthew's commentary.
Sorry. Oh my gosh.
I've done it too.
You're not the only ones who.
Exactly my point. But in reverse, this is what I wanted to share with you guys. I found that I have intentionally had to come up with characteristics of Ellie, my protagonist, who, as I said, bears some resemblance to me, that she isn't. I mean, that I'm not. So for the biggest example in the story, she rejects the idea of motherhood when it's kind of forced on her. And I am so naturally a mother. I'm so live in that space so easily. And so I had to do that. And it was a wonderful experience. You kind of get to know yourself a little bit better when you impose aesthetic distance.
Yes. I love the way you said that, imposing aesthetic distance. Karen, I was going to call on you because you've had a lot of work in this regard. Talk to me about the aesthetic distance between you and Wendy.
It's helped open up so much. I'm free to be a me that it's not me, but a me that I might have liked to be. It's really empowered me in ways that nothing else could. But I want to go back to what Matthew said. Can I say I remember when you guys first met? I remember when the first email I sent you and you weren't sure about being able to do this. And, I was just 1 year into one class in and doing the Jam for Joy. That was before even the first Field of Dreams class, because now I'm on 2. And I could see myself doing this, not to this. This is a dream come true here. But I just wanted to tell you then, you're not, and to tell you again now, you are so not an imposter. And if I could do it, you're damn right you could too, really. And we what we've created here, I haven't ever been more proud of being a part of. And don't hold on to the success that you are, really.
So you just illustrated part of who we are as a community and the strength of the class, because it's not a one-on-one thing. It's not you guys working with me. It is all of you working with each other. And that's something really important to understand about cinema therapy, is the way that you all, who are all mentors, having gone through as well, and active in your own processes, you affect each other. That, it's early on, Susan and I talked about this process. She quite kindly was calling it with improv, the Robert factor. And I told her, we've got to get away from that. Number one, there's only one me, but number two, it's really not about me. Yeah, I have a certain skill set and I have abilities, which I'm very proud of and bring forward. But as you all kindly call me the Sherpa, that's the point. I'm not there to carry you guys on my back. I'm not there to tell you where to go. I'm there to light the path and really point, say good luck and here's your supplies and come back after, that adventure and let's see where it took you. That's the strength you all get from being autonomous, back to Matthew's word, right? And in a safe way, right? You're not just like, see you later in 16 weeks, here's a class. We check in regularly, not only in the once a week, but throughout the week, right? There are, as many baby steps as we need to. Susan?
We're people, right? Some of us read more or less than others. Some of us read different types of things. But when we read each other's weekly contributions, we're reading as individuals and reacting. If we're confused about something, we feel permission from the group to be honest in that way. If we're touched by something, or if it warms our hearts, or if it made us laugh, we put that in the comments, and that reinforces for the writer. You're on a good path with that, and we're just regular people, but that's who our readers and our viewers will be.
You bet. Hey, Amy, I wanted to go into your story because I don't think I've shown it yet. Again, from the aesthetic distance standpoint, you know, you mentioned before, and often when we have conversations, you bring up Apathetic Annie, who was your breakthrough. And that's a prior story, right? This one is a different story, was a very different journey. We did it during the Back to the Future class. By the way, every film we do has a significant effect or an impact on the class. And just to bring forward so everybody knows, we started with Star Wars. That was our pilot program for 2. We did Shawshank several times, have done it the most of any of them. We did Inside Out a couple times. We've also done Field of Dreams a couple times, and we've done Back to the Future once. The one that's coming up that we're very excited about is Go the Distance. That's Rocky, right? That's with Rocksteady Boxing. We'll be using the film Rocky. And some people ask, well, what other film could you do? And I say, name it. Pretty much every film follows some form of the hero's journey, and we could make them work. Obviously, we want to work with films that are somewhat familiar and have the best chance of working with a certain group. But back to you, Amy. It was Back to the Future that this class, which is a very evocative film in terms of generation, in terms of memory, and time travel. And you took on some big things in this story, which is called Where Memories Go. And I love your cover. And thank you for taking, some feedback on, the size of the bubbles. And you wrote this. This scene was one of your breakthrough scenes. I remember when you wrote it, about Emma exploring this fantastical world that she finds, that allows her to see the memories in these bubble-like forms. What is your relationship like with Emma today? Because it was, I know, somewhat of a struggle to build the aesthetic distance.
Well, actually, first thing comes to mind is it inspired me to dig into my own box of photos and start organizing.
There you go.
I have gotten rid of hundreds of photos in the last few months, just slowly working on it. But this one is different from the first 2 because I guess each one, each class and each movie kind of inspires what I'm writing about, but this one really did. When there was time travel involved, I was like, oh, okay. And then, that made me come up with just the bizarre, seems like it's going to be an offshoot, but it becomes part of the main story that I bring Star Trek into it.
Yep.
So it's again, like the others, I have been struggling with really awful memories that I didn't want to deal with them. So this helped me.
And that's it, right? So we can't control what has happened. This is something we talk a lot about, especially Brene Brown leads us in that direction. However, we can control what we want to do with those memories today. We can rewrite the ending. We can't change the action. However, we can rewrite the ending, meaning what we'll do with what was, and also recognize, as I think your character does, Emma does, that sometimes the memory of the adult is not quite the memory of the thing, right? That we have flawed memories that are sometimes colored by emotions or what other people have told us, maybe even a snapshot that only tells one frame of the whole picture or what was outside of the frame. And those are things that come up in your story, which really fascinate me.
Yeah, I had to, what I faced in the cover there, was oh, here, it's kind of like, oh, I've been journeying to find all these memories that I need to face, and here they are. Okay, I'm going to start getting rid of some. Whoa, wait a minute. No, it's destroying too much. And it made me realize, oh, it's not the memory itself, it's what represented, what made it that I have to deal with. And so that allowed me to think about what it was that bothered me about the memory and forgive, if there was forgiveness needed, and heal.
That's right, because it's for you, right? Ultimately, you
Yeah.
know, we can't fix anybody else, you
Yeah.
know. So you can fix your story, and by doing so, move forward, Karen.
I
Yeah.
love everybody's story, and I love what you just said, Amy. And my story did similar things to me, but more so, it has helped me work through my current fears
Mm.
in ways that I didn't even know they were helping as I was writing it, especially the second time going through. But wow, it empowers me to push past things that aren't, Wendy's not me,
Right.
but it's helped me process things in ways that I couldn't have done it any other way, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. And yeah, dream come true stuff. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't
You're
say enough
welcome.
thank yous to each and every one of you and everybody else, because this is big.
It is. It is for all of us, and that's why collectively, I think sharing these. It's one thing when we had these disparate parts. As this program has grown over years, and there was I think, Matthew again led the way for us because, I could see so clearly in his play. I said, man, this is a screenplay. Even if you don't see it, I hope you'll trust me. And thankfully you did.
I saw it the first time I viewed it too.
Yeah.
And that, he trusted me enough to go down the path, Matthew, to take the class when you had a lot going on, including DBS, deep brain stimulation surgery, and then to also go forward and write in a form that you weren't comfortable in. Playwriting was already a little bit of a leap for you. Screenwriting was a big leap, and you worked. You really worked, and I've heard you talk many times about feeling like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, and this kind of sucks, but you turned it in every week. Talk about that workman-like approach, and I've heard you mention before the importance of having deadlines and group deadlines and keeping you on track.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It just forced me not to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep submitting stuff. It might be crap. It might be, I'm just vomiting on a piece of paper. But the end result, though, is accomplishment. Little by little by little by little, I'm seeing my, abilities sharpen. One thing I like that I've heard recently, Robert, is the difference between support and feedback.
Mm.
That support is what your grandma says, like you're gonna be on Broadway. Well, maybe not, maybe not. But if you can, but what the class gives you is not just support. There's a little of that, but mostly it's feedback, which is good, useful, make you better kind of response to what you're writing. So when you chime in, I hear it from 7 or 8 different people that X and X thing needs to be changed. I'm going to change it because it's not just support. It's not my mom or grandma talking about how great I am. It's hearing from people who know and have been there and done that, and that was very helpful to me. One thing I will say about story, and this is a little hard to say, to be honest, is while I was writing the screenplay, I was also getting a divorce. And I started to realize that my own story, for a while, I thought was too sad to be part of a movie. Like they're not going to make a movie about Parkinson's that ends in divorce. But that's the way it's turning out for me. So I had to come to terms with my story, and for a long time I sort of just I would, I didn't know where to go with that, you know, that my own story was too sad to make into but my story's not done.
That's
And I
it.
am still the author of my story.
I'm so glad you got that to that point. It was screaming in my head, and it was for you to find that exact thing. You're not done.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've had some really good doses, which people can seek out our daily dose of dopamine, talking about that exact thing, about the "it's too sad" thing. And we know the problem with Pollyanna stories in the Parkinson's world, the stories that frankly kind of suck, that say, I got diagnosed, I was scared, I started exercising, and now I'm fine. That actually has a counterproductive uh, net effect for all of us, because if people go, you're fine, the humanity and the compassion gets lost. I mean, they might go, but then they move on to the next thing. Oh, there's somebody, I better, donate that way, or help that person. And meanwhile, you're suffering in silence because either it's too sad or too scary, or it's not important enough, or whatever the reason is, to not share the story. It ends up harming you, the person who feels devalued, right? I'll speak because you're speaking on that term, and Susan knows as well. We've had a lot of these conversations. Worth and worthlessness is kind of one of my big life things, right? And I have people, when I tell that to, they go, "Are you kidding? You've ridden your bike cross country. You have a PhD. You've gone on this amazing thing with your dad. You made all these movies. How is you feel worthless?" And it's like, it's just something I deal with, and there will probably be a book or at least a big chapter about it someday. But I can say it's part of me. I understand worthlessness, and I understand its incredibly toxic, corrosive nature. And whether that label is divorcee, or person who doesn't make enough money, or anything else, person with Parkinson's, person who, didn't accomplish XYZ goal, when that label becomes the reality, yeah, well, like you said, Matthew, I'm not done yet. Okay.
That's just
The story's not over.
I love hearing that. I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
It's a great response and a mindset. Could we go back a few minutes to what Matthew was saying about the value of the contributions from the rest of the class? I've probably talked with everybody here in some detail, and many of us struggled with our real life stuff and not letting it be too obvious in our stories. Not letting it.
Like a phone call?
Joy coming. See, Amy. So the sense of perspective is invaluable in the way this class has been crafted, that we do contribute to each other and can help others see. You don't have to not say that thing.
Yeah. What I didn't say.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You got to say it. It's part
So,
of it.
Susan, you were part of when this came around. Susan's my first follower, the co-founder of Yaks, and seen a lot of this from the ground floor up. So I open this to you and to everybody out there. There's a phrase I started using, I think about 2 classes in, which was, the most important writing you'll do is the feedback you leave for others. I meant that, and I mean that more than ever. And I've heard all of you kind of validate that in ways. However, the same way that the person looking at the screenplay, or the finished, success story, as it were, and think that's not me, that person might also go, that's a nice sounding phrase, but what does that actually mean? So to you, I ask you all, what does it mean the most important feedback, or the most important writing you'll do, is the feedback you'll leave for other people? Can you speak toward that, Karen?
What it's going to mean to that person to be felt, heard, and seen as worthy of leaving feedback. And just, that's how we bond over our stories. That's how Amy and I started bonding over that first round of Shawshank, because we had so much in common too. And it just, how we grow as an ensemble. You know, the more we go through it, the more we learn about each other, and it's really part of how we feel not alone. We know we're not alone.
The feedback can be scary. I know this from having taught for well over a decade now, and I know this from, I did a lot. Is one of the things I pat myself on the back for. Not great at everything in the classroom, but I'm really good at fostering an environment of conversation to help make sense out of information, rather than, I've never liked this model, I'm the teacher, listen to me, and somehow shove it in your ear and make your brain understand it. And that stage on the stage thing, all too prevalent in academia, and I despise it. So the idea is to put the information out there in front of everybody and go, well, I know what it means to me. What does it mean to you? And then let's do what Karen just talked about. Let's discuss it. Here's what I see. Here's what I feel. And it doesn't mean, as you all know, that I'm not going to sometimes come down to guys and say, hey, I think you're heading down a bad path, or I'm gonna gently push you in another direction, or even with some of you to say, I've had enough. If you're going to write this, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop giving you feedback on this, because you're heading in a way that's just it's either not clear or it's not engaging. And if you don't want to hear it, that's okay. You're welcome to write whatever you want. But I can't. That's a journey that I don't know. And maybe you're going to light a new path. I'll give you that. But because some people hear what I'm saying and think, oh, it's just all touchy feeling, mamby-pamby. No, there's parameters to this. There's absolutely parameters, and I don't call them rules exactly, but guidelines at least we better follow.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sharon.
I think that a lot of time for me, it's just I didn't get it at the time that it happens, and then if I hear it several times, I'm like, oh yeah, what was it? Oh, I got it now. It just is not getting to me until I get to a certain point to maturity myself.
There it is. I love that you use that word. There's maturity within the 16 weeks, especially the first time going.
Very much so.
Right? Of what is this thing? And I'll say, for those who've gone through it several times, you can speak to that too. They say there's other levels of maturity. Oh, now I'm hearing this again, but I'm hearing it differently, and maybe through a different lens of a different movie, or I'm writing something different, or maybe I'm writing the same thing, but like Sharon said, time has passed and I've been affected very differently.
And this, the realization that is what's becoming of you. You're bringing that to your situation, and it's just like, oh, inspiring, just really like, wow, it's the whoa, or whatever.
My word of the year, which is awe, many of you know, and exactly what Sharon just said is that. I want to give that moment to everybody right here. Let's all offer one big whoa, shall we? Whoa! And it's somewhat silly sounding. However, that's not an English word. That's a human expression. People around the world, in experiencing awe, say the word whoa. Quick examples. Let's kind of do a little improv right now. What's something that might make you say whoa? Just consider something awesome in the world. Anything you've experienced or you could even consider experiencing. Yes, Amy?
Fantastic stunts.
Whoa. Karen?
A rainbow.
Whoa. We had one with our dear friend John Hurley the other day at our celebration, a John Hurley rainbow. Whoa. Somebody else, something that's awesome, and you might say
a redwood tree.
A redwood tree. Whoa. Beautiful. Susan?
A rare, occasional, deep, dark chocolate.
Whoa. Sharon, something that makes you feel awe.
I'm in awe so many times during the day. It is just the greatest
awesome.
feeling.
Wow.
Just looking out the window and seeing something amazing.
It's beautiful.
Whoa.
That's just
First time I saw a pipeline break on the North Shore.
Oh
and
my God.
it looked like animation. It was so awesome.
Whoa.
So I'm so glad you brought up the word awe, because it really has beautiful, deep health components to it, and restorative in our humility and our humanity to experience awe. And also, the aesthetic distance helps us place the character in the right place in his or her world, that even if he or she or they are the hero, one thing I know we recognize, and all of you do, is that nobody does it alone. They're not the whole story. They have allies, they have mentors, they have threshold guardians, they have, by the way, very important antagonists, bad guys, bad girls. Those people serve as much, if not more, of a purpose often than the allies do, because they drive the hero to action. So we thank, as my sister wrote, thank the doubters, praise the critics for helping us see the things that we didn't want to. Like Matthew said, if everyone was grandma to us, we'd never mature. So we need to be able to show tough, compassionate, fair love to each other. Karen?
That right there. And showing the love is what we do in our feedback on each other's paper, going back to what Sharon said. It's not every why it's so important to be in an ensemble. You never know who's going to say that one thing that's going to flick the light switch on. Now I get it. And that's part of what we do for each other.
And you know what else? Yes, and that, Karen. Sometimes I hear you guys saying things, and all of a sudden you say it, and you heard it for the first time. It came out of your mouth, but you heard it for the first time. You're like, I just said something, and oh my gosh, was that me?
That's why sometimes I say I feel like we're sharing the same brain too, because after so many months and now 2 years of being plugged in, yeah, it happens, whether we're online or not.
I saw your hand, Susan. Yes, did you have something to?
Yes, I do. I want to talk about ChatGPT for a second, because what we just said here, I have experienced listening to you, our Sherpa and our guide, talk about the value of ChatGPT and understand it and grasp it and practice and play with it myself and not get there.
So
And then I keep playing with it.
Yeah.
And then maybe I even give it to ChatGPT again. And then I see the use of a word or a vision comes to me or something. And it turns everything, it lights everything up. And you know, I knew this, and it takes several repetitions sometimes to get there.
So let's frame that really quickly, because we're running short on time. We're going to wrap here, and there's more I want to get to, and we'll run a second version of this tomorrow. Again, everyone is welcome from this group, and we'll have Daryl joining us as well, the sixth member of our first 6 success stories. ChatGPT deserves more time and exploration, because we know how big AI is in our world, and it's relatively new to our cinema therapy process. Brought it in, dipping toes in the water about 1.5 years ago, and it has become full-fledged, I'd say, in the last 2 offerings over the last 6 to 9 months. The ideas that Susan brings forward are very important, that ChatGPT is not meant to replace. It is not meant to do the work for you. It is, in fact, your assistant. And it is that relationship of seeing it as assistive technology. We would no more reject a walker or a wheelchair than we should reject ChatGPT. Okay. It is assistive technology. It is not there to do it for you. It is there to, as Susan said, develop a relationship with. And much like Matthew said earlier, if you let it be your grandmother, it will be. It's kind of programmed to be a little kiss ass, a little bit not so great. So we learn, and it's part of our process, to learn how to talk to ChatGPT, because if you ask it to be a certain way, say, I need a more critical approach, I need criticism here, it'll give it to you. It'll work for you the way you wish to work for it. So I see so many people, big names, just blasting ChatGPT or AI, going, oh, it's just this, it's just that. And you know what? It's never going to replace humans. It's go, well, with your bipolar definition of what AI is, you've missed all of the intricacies and the opportunities. So what we do is we play with it. And we never insist anybody use it. However, we give it to you as another tool in the way we use it. And it's something that I hope those of you who are hearing this, again, will recognize the opportunity of it. And we'll lean into that more tomorrow. I'm going to just put a little bit of a couch on that for the moment, so we can wrap this up. What I want to leave with today is that there's so much more to these success stories. What we've done in the last hour has been spectacular. There is so much more to your writing. And I want to point out one thing that Susan notes that is so important on all of these success stories. You'll see them up here. You'll see a feature film project in development, right? You'll see in Harmony Rising, a novella in progress, right? This doesn't mean that they're done, right? This means there's enough of them so that you can read the summary, you can see an image that gives you a feeling for what it is, and you can see what it means to each of the authors. They are works in progress. However, they're not nearly at the beginning. No, they're well down the road. There's more work to be done, and I am very, very grateful to each and every one of you for doing the work and for supporting each other in doing that toward our ultimate goal of getting the Parkinson's community heard, understood, and what we all need to ultimately find a cure. I don't think that's out of bounds for what we're doing with storytelling. The power of narrative can reshape the world. Okay? With that in mind, I wish you all sincere gratitude and offer my thanks and say, if you can join tomorrow, I hope you will. And otherwise, we'll be seeing you around at various events we do at Yes and Exercise, whether it's our Jam for Joy or any of our things. Please reach out to us, those of you watching this right now. If you want to know more about these stories, we can get that to you. If you want to, maybe we can start sign-up lists of people who want to pre-order. We can do things like that. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Robert.